Nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. We are now firmly in a post-movie star Hollywood. Now, some would argue that we're in a post-Hollywood Hollywood, and I would agree. Gone are the days where an actor can get lost in their role because, thanks to social media, we got to know them. And long gone are the days of the movie star that will put butts in seats. Those were the days where an actor might not have had the most range, but they more than made up for it with their charisma, including but not limited to Jack Nicholson, Clint Eastwood, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Sylvester Stallone. Oh, hell, Sly, you still got it. Go watch Tulsa King. And there are so many more, too many to name, but now we are just down to one. And while there are a lot of great actors out there with a lot of talent who star in movies, Tom Cruise is the last movie star. And what a redemption arc he's had. It seems like ancient history since he was jumping up and down on a chair professing his love for a woman on Oprah. Now, I didn't find that as cringe as everyone else. I was just surprised he was professing his love for a woman.
Mr. Cruise, you can't just stay in the closet, all right? You need to come out.
And let's not forget his controversial statement about certain pharmaceuticals that ended up not being that controversial at all.
Drugs aren't the answer. That these drugs are very dangerous. They're mind-altering, antipsychotic drugs. And there are ways of doing it without that so that we don't end up in a brave new world.
And yes, there's the whole Scientology thing, which I think is a bit kooky, but it's never really bothered me. But he's not only the last movie star, he's also known as the last movie star to save Hollywood.
I was calling like, we have to set up the rules, let's make agreements so that we can get back to work. And then I was calling governments and getting agreements with them. And then I was sharing it with the other studios and my friends saying, this is how we're doing it. And then just kind of saying my crew's gonna get paid during this time. I just kept everybody working.
Now the most controversial thing he has done, aside from saving Hollywood, an industry that he loves more than it loves itself, is making the bold move of actually acknowledging and showing gratitude towards the paying customer. With Top Gun Maverick, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, Tom Cruise has been running a masterclass on how you promote a movie. And you would think this would be one of the simplest things to do in Tinseltown, but apparently it's not. All by making radical statements like, I really hope you enjoy the movie and thank you for coming, and not getting drawn into any political controversies by the access media.
Is this particular movie under that tariff? And also, how much of the film was shot overseas?
He's out there shaking hands, meeting staff members at theaters, and intensely eating popcorn. It really makes you want to root for this guy. Hell, I am rooting for Tom Cruise. That's why it makes this very difficult to say. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, formerly known as Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is in truth Mission Impossible 8. The final chapter in an almost 30-year-old franchise is a disappointing mess. And now officially the worst Mission Impossible film. And hey, say what you want about Mission Impossible 2, but it has banger lines like this.
No. She's got no training for this kind of thing.
But to go to bed with a man and lie to him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
Because the flaws from the previous film are exacerbated in this one. And considering this film cost $400 million to make, it's going to be mission impossible to make money. It's a series of contrived events with some good action scenes and spectacular stunts, continually interrupted with massive exposition info dumps that go on for minutes, to the point where it becomes comical and this thing turns into a parody of itself. I mean, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning could easily be a Tug Speedman movie. The plot goes something like this. Continuing the events of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is now called Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Ethan Hunt, Haley Atwell, and everyone else go on a globe-trotting adventure and race against the clock to find an all-powerful, self-aware AI known as the Entity, hell-bent on destroying humanity. Now, how does this all-powerful, self-aware AI known as the Entity plan to reseed the Earth after hundreds, possibly thousands of years of a nuclear winter? Don't know. But that's not the only thing Ethan Hunt, Haley Atwell, and everyone else is up against. They have to deal with their own government and the bad guy from the last film, Gabriel, who looks like he just walked off a telenovela. Their mission, if they choose to accept it, is to use the MacGuffin from the last film, the cruciform key, to find the submarine Sevastopol in the middle of the ocean, to find another MacGuffin called the Podkova, which will connect to another MacGuffin called the poison pill that will kill the final MacGuffin, the Entity. So yes, essentially the plot is to use the MacGuffin from the last film to find another MacGuffin, to connect it to another MacGuffin, to kill the MacGuffin. And as far as breaking down the plot with any possible spoilers is concerned, I wouldn't even know where to start without making this a 3-hour video, which I have no interest to make. It is interesting that a film that is about an evil AI feels like it was written by AI. Again, there's no real plot here, and I can't undersell this. It's a series of scenarios preceded by exposition scenes rapid spoon-fed to you, so if you're in the audience, I hope you're keeping studious notes. It's not incomprehensible, it just takes a lot of work. And it pains me to say this because I really wanted this to be good and not an incoherent mess. But in the interest of fairness, and I will say this isn't the worst movie I've seen this year, we'll start with the good. There's Haley Atwell. Nope, no other comment needed. And of course, there's Tom Cruise, and what else is there left to say about this guy? We get the trademark Tom Cruise running. We get the trademark Tom Cruise convincing people in power to trust him. We get the trademark Tom Cruise incomprehensible and inexplicable stunts. We get more Tom Cruise running, and he fights a dude in his underwear. Hey, if I look like that at 61, I'd fight dudes in my underwear too. Oh, that didn't sound good. Anyway, did I mention the stunts are unbelievable? While there isn't as much as I thought there would be in this very long movie, when they get to the biplane scene, which you've all seen the behind the scenes for, it doesn't do it justice at all. It is absolutely brilliant. And at times funny. Tom Cruise is the modern day Buster Keaton. But that's about all the nice things I can say about it. The mediocre? Well, the entire rest of the cast. And there is a lot of them. There's Gary from World's End, Marcellus Wallace, telenovela guy, Mantis, diverse IMF guy, Septon Yanella, the guy from Severance, the guy from Manhunter, the guy from the first Mission Impossible film, General Nick Offerman, Kat from Mobland, President Tina Turner, a former writer from Doctor Who, and this guy who they retconned to be Jim Phelps' son, and last but not least, Jefferson Twilight from the Venture Brothers. And nobody really stood out, and nobody was terrible because they were all there to support the exposition in an evenly distributed amount of lines. This brings us to the bad. Now, a lot will be made of the excessive info/exposition dumps in this movie, and it should be, because there's no less than 7 times in Mission Impossible, the final, really, this is it, we're not coming back reckoning, where they stop everything to explain everything. And they're not short. Some go on for minutes at a time. The beginning of the film starts with a recap and an info dump that lasts for 5 minutes. But at least they mix it up a bit. There's solo exposition, ensemble exposition, flashback exposition, recap exposition, timey-wimey exposition. They flash back to previous films, they flash back to the previous film, and they flash back to this film. But I think all this can be simplified with a new term, recaposition. But it is strange because director Christopher McQuarrie said this about fan service.
Fan service and fandom is poison. It is deadly. It's great when applied like a very, very, very strong spice, very judiciously. If you happen to have seen the other movies, great. I don't count on it. The danger of that is I'm asking you to leave the narrative and remember another narrative and come back.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that, except for the fact that Mission Impossible Final Reckoning has its fair share of callbacks, including the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3, because we finally figured out what it is.
What is the rabbit's foot? Mystery box.
But aside from that, one of the worst bits is the villain, the AI entity, which is only slightly less intelligent than Grok is now. Again, the AI's big plan was to destroy most of the world, which would have probably destroyed all of the world, take whatever survivors that weren't mutants after generations, and remake it in its own image. So how exactly was the AI going to do that? It had no access to machinery or vehicles or robots, because there would be no internet, because there would be no electricity, because it would have blown up the world. All it is now is a big computer in a doomsday vault, which is supposed to save all the world's information, that is in, of all places, South Africa.
That was bad intelligence. Very bad intelligence.
I'm sorry.
But the humans aren't much smarter. President Tina Turner and her administration, while still in control of the United States nuclear arsenal, to take out everyone else's nuclear arsenal, which would obviously lead to a war, but the administration has a solution for that. They would also bomb an American city as a political gesture. Sure, I broke your nose and kicked you in the balls, but I pinched myself, so we're even now. Listen, I'm not expecting some big-brained auteur film out of Mission Impossible, but they've just done a much better job in the past explaining stuff like this. I could accept a bad bad guy in Mission Impossible being able to come up with a 30 megaton nuclear bomb pretty easy. But I do have some trouble with Ethan Hunt jumping out of a helicopter in the middle of the Arctic Ocean and randomly running across some scuba divers that were from the submarine that he was looking for without a location. Or later on, after that prolonged submarine scene, surviving in the middle of the Arctic Ocean without a scuba suit and surviving the bends. But to be fair, Haley Atwell was there to save him. My biggest disappointment is there's an entire scene with Haley Atwell on a dog sled and they set her up fighting a polar bear and they never pay it off. I would have liked to seen Haley Atwell fight a polar bear. It's not like it wouldn't have fit in this movie. Anyway, this is a bummer how Mission Impossible ends. It's an excessive, bloated, convoluted mess, but if you do want to see it to support Tom Cruise or just to see him do some crazy stunts, definitely see it in a theater for that biplane scene alone. And even though I just ripped your movie, hats off to you, Tom Cruise, for being a shining example of what everything Hollywood should be. And I agree with Justine Bateman. They should just make you the president of Hollywood. For this reason alone, you showed something that we very rarely see from your industry: gratitude.
Nerdrotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.